Oh, there we go. Hello, we're live. How you doing?
Yeah, it's all good, man. You?
Yeah, internet problems because I hit the intro there. I don't know if it played. Did it play on your end?
Yeah, it played.
Oh, there we go. So I'm just talking nonsense. There we go. Anyway,
Everything's a mess.
speaking of nonsense, we have a Brighton defeat to chat about 24 hours on. And just a few other bits of bobs football wise. We're gonna get people's comments, we're gonna get people's thoughts, but first and foremost, Turkish, how you doing, man?
Yeah. Outside Arsenal, everything's good. If we're
Yeah.
gonna, if that question's more orientated towards
It actually
Arsenal,
No, it was a more general question. How are you in life? I'm not going to lie to everyone. Arsenal lost. I didn't let it ruin my weekend. I celebrated my friend's birthday, watched the F1, and you can't let it run your life, even though it does mean everything to us. But you're good, yeah?
yeah, all good, man.
Yeah, good stuff, good stuff. Um, Guys, we're going to be live for, I mean, who knows, half hour, 45 minutes, however long it takes for us to really get to the crux of where we are in this top four race. We'll have a little look at Arsenal's remaining fixtures. We'll have a look at Spurs. We'll talk about the just the way it's swung in the last 7 days. I just didn't foresee a 7 days that would swing it this much. You can drop points here or there, or certain results might make you think, oh, maybe they're in the ascendancy now. But this has gone, we've gone from 7 days ago, Arsenal are favourites, and actually a lot of people were saying Tottenham don't have the consistency and Arsenal have the buffer, to suddenly I can't see how Spurs now don't get it. And I know that's a really, really, let's be honest, just shit thing to have to say on this channel, but that is almost the way things have gone in the last 7 days. 24 hours on, Turkish, how are you reflecting on it? I imagine standing by a lot of what you said yesterday.
Yeah, it's the same feeling. It's the same feeling, just less raw, I guess. I've had a night's sleep and whatnot.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, even the chances of top four that reared its head in February and March, I think there was always that thing in the back of my mind, especially. I'm sure a lot of other fans out there that, we've seen inevitable collapses before in the past.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those ones where, as much as there was renewed hope and belief, there was always that, you know, that expectancy to potentially slip up somewhere along the line where we don't expect to slip up. Because so far this season, more often than not, we've done the job against the teams we need to do the job against. But all of a sudden, business end, you know, it doesn't necessarily matter what you do in the first 30 games if you approach the last 8, 9 in this manner. All that good work pretty much down the drain, if I'm honest. I know I didn't think top six was viable at the start of the season. As the season panned out, you saw top four as a very viable option all of a sudden, and by you, I mean Arsenal fans in general.
Yeah.
That's why the feeling is again a feeling of being let down, because when you look at Tottenham, Arsenal, and United, there's a difference there throughout the season. Tottenham have made decisions that look like it's getting them the prize, or the prize money, let's say, that they wanted, and
Yeah.
that's Champions League football. So I can't help but look back at January, and I can't help but look back at last summer as well now, because of
Yeah.
Tavares not starting and Lokonga looking not ready. And it's a shame, because people will say knee jerk, and people will say it was all good a week ago and all that, but essentially it wasn't all good. We just haven't been in a top four race for a little while, so we just wanted to ride the wave, I guess. That wave is unfortunately
Yeah.
settled now.
Yeah, you put it quite interestingly. Like, it's not that things were good. It's just that we didn't have the hurdles to overcome. When we said January was a bad window for us, I remember we were live. Do you remember we did the whole like 12-hour day at AFTV? On this channel doing the lives, all the breaking news, and we were all absolutely gobsmacked at the fact we hadn't brought in replacements for, I wouldn't say key players, but key depth that we had
Mhm.
lost in the squad. And there was a lot of, and this is the one thing that annoys me, and it's not an Arsenal fans thing, it's a modern football fans thing. Of we win a couple games, we go on a good run, and it's, where's everyone who criticised the January window now? Blah 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 blah. But we knew that the team, if fully fit, was good enough to compete and maybe get top four. Our issue was, what do you do when Lacazette inevitably goes through his inconsistencies? What do you do when Partey gets injured? Because he's got a history of getting injured. Not his fault, but he's got a history of it. Kieran Tierney, we love him. I know he's your captain, right? But he's got a serious history of injuries. And so we left ourselves ultimately light in the squad and having to maneuver other key areas and to offset the injury problems we've got. And it hasn't worked. And in the space of 2 games, Palace and Brighton again, I mean, 3 years on, it's the same thing. It looks like the top 4 race is gone. We're going to go through some comments. We'll have a little look at Arsenal's run-in. And the easiest thing to say is the top 4's done because Tottenham have a better run-in and now they're ahead of us. That's the easiest thing to say. But mathematically, it's not. So I think we owe it to explore where Arsenal can claw their way back in and what Arteta can try and do to at least make this competitive and not hand it on a bloody plate to Spurs. Because I think that's what's hurting people a lot as well. It's not just losing it, it's the manner in which we're just going, here you go, 8 games to go, there's no competition here. So let's have a look at what people are saying. Obviously, people aren't happy with Mikel Arteta. Jose saying, I mean, it's pretty savage, just saying sack the manager. He's not happy. Denzel says no depth, no challenge. S94 Gunners says Oba, Guendouzi, Saliba, 3 players that obviously Arteta hasn't kept in the squad. We wait to see what happens with Saliba's future, and they're all obviously out of the squad for different reasons. What did Shress say? Shress says, no, even if we do, it's due to opposition slip-ups. If you two watched Liverpool versus City, you'd realise we are years from winning the Premier League. Losing to Crystal Palace and Brighton showed true colours. Did you watch the Liverpool City game?
Yeah. I watched about 78 minutes of it.
I had this when I watched the game back in October when they played at Anfield. And I was left with the same thing today. Just like, we don't watch that football week in, week out, do we? Now, I'm not saying Arsenal should, because they're another level, and we're talking about 2 of the best Premier League teams ever. But you could just see like how far we've got to go. What was your kind of take watching that game?
That's what Gary Neville meant. He just shouldn't have included Man United and Chelsea in that.
Yeah.
Well, not so much Chelsea. I guess, under Roman, Chelsea were pretty much up there in winning the major runners. But Man United, it was a bit cheeky of him. But he meant that, Man City and Liverpool, they've set the bar so high. Can any manager really come in and change that? I think this is why, names like Conte, names like Simeone, these are the types of managers that can come in and disrupt order, in my opinion. Conte's already done it in this league with Chelsea. Simeone's done it in La Liga. You've seen him win a couple titles there, and the order is usually Real or Barca.
Yeah, very true.
I just think modern day football is as much about the manager than it is about the system and the players and all that. It just creates what Klopp and Guardiola have done in different ways as well. But what they've done is just created a beast. I'm interested to see whether what they've created is sustainable, and when they do go, it's still embedded within the culture of those clubs. Well, Liverpool is they've got a big, massive history. Man City, Guardiola has created the bulk of that history in his time here.
Yeah.
But looking in from now, it's hard to see any current manager in this league come close to. I did mention Conte, but Conte being at Tottenham will be the downfall of ever approaching them heights, because I can't ever see Tottenham at Man City or Liverpool's level, regardless of what manager they brought in. But Klopp and Pep, before we even talk about City and Liverpool and the players and the goals and the moves, the play, the system, them two have they've come in. And I know there's a lot of talk about the greatest rivalry in the league. The greatest rivalry for me will always remain the Arsenal United rivalry, because of the physicality of it as well, and the rawness of it. And
yeah,
you don't really get that in football. But in terms of rivalries, it's up there, top 2, top 3 in Premier League history.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a really interesting super chat from True Gunners TV. Thank you for your super chat. Says, are you not bored of talking about top 4 this, top 4 that? I've just watched Liverpool versus City and I'm sick with jealousy because we smashed a stadium down to become them and we are nowhere near time to hold the club accountable. I mean, that's very much echoing the kind of words you've been saying, Turkish.
I'm sick of it. I wish I could do more videos on my channel and really take on this role more and give my opinion more. But I'm sick to death when I know that the same reasons are going to come back, regardless of whatever waves we find throughout a season or in a summer that we can ride. Those waves will never ride us into the sunset. They will always end before any sunset approaches, like this season has. Under this ownership, I'm sick and tired of talking about the same things. This summer's going to come. We'll probably sign a player or two. Let's hope they build on the decent work they done last summer. And I say decent now because 3-4 weeks ago, we would have all said good, potentially great summer last summer because of the way Ramsdale's coming, because of the way Tomiyasu had come in, Ben White, Odegaard.
Yeah.
But this past week had brought that good/great, if you called it that window, down to a decent, because I look at Lokonga and Tavares at a crucial point in the season when you're relying upon these backups that you brought in, Arteta, Edu, etc. We cannot rely upon them. And you're even not relying on them. So it's similar problems to the end of last season, like I mentioned in my interview. What's changed from that Villarreal semi-final? Tierney gets injured. We have to play Xhaka left back. We leave the middle exposed. Champions League hopes down the drain. Literally the same story, just in a different format this season.
Yeah.
That's why for me,
Great
as much
point.
as for the majority of the season, we looked at last summer as building a good foundation, a good base. And yes, that is still there. Essentially, 1 or 2 let us down in the end. And that's why we are here. But I'm sick. I'm sick because it's not the first time we haven't covered all the spaces we need to cover in a summer window. And it won't be the last time under this ownership. And I used the analogy yesterday about the ship sinking, whether you have 1 hole or 6. And Arsenal never really they never really go into a season giving us the highest hopes that we have the squad capable. They didn't do that this season, going into a season without Europe, let alone next season where Europa League or Conference League is the reality. No one really wants that. I don't think anyone can really say they want Europa League football. I guess you'd make do with it because, the money it brings in. I don't like the argument that Europa League attracts players because it doesn't. Europa League is Europa League. No players coming for Europa League. They're coming for the money. If you got Champions League, that's also a factor. But more often than not, money talks in the football world now. So all that Europa League will get us this player, that player. Not necessarily. Maybe the good work that Arteta and Edu done last summer with building a base, maybe that can be relied upon. But without top 4, it's another season down the drain, James.
I've got some super chats here from Vijay. Says, I'd be ecstatic for 4th spot, but I'd be okay with 5th spot if this transfer window in the summer we spend another 150 and put up a challenge on all fronts. Andy Arsell then says, let's not talk about top 4 all the time. It's a loser mentality. We need to bolster the squad by removing Lacazette and Xhaka. If they're here next season, we're done. I can't remember who I was talking to. I think it was there was one of our, one of our friends, Cass, who made a really good point. He said, who are the players that we're expecting to get us over the line? It's Lacazette, who, while I've always said he's a trier and a fighter and everything, the cold hard facts are that even if he leads us to Champions League football, he's probably not here to play in it next season. Who do we bring in when Partey's injured? El Neni? Well, his contract expires. There is a degree of, while I think Arteta has, in my opinion, done a good job with the rebuilding of the squad, the getting rid of players that I think we were all ready to see the back of, getting in young, hungry, fresh players that, we're willing to give a chance and have shown a degree of grit. I know these last two games, they don't look like they've got much grit, but and then across the season they've shown some grit and some, you know, kind of, I know it's kind of a cliche words, but passion for the badge and all that, and an understanding of what it means to the fans and all these things. I just still think actually you lose a couple players and you look at what you got left to turn to and you realize that there's still quite a lot of squad building to do. The problem is, I always think if everything was playing out the way it was, except this was Arteta's first season or even his second, I think people would say, look, all right, by his third, he gets the final pieces and maybe we start to really see what we're about. But we're coming, I know he's only had a half season before, but basically coming to the end of his third season. And there have been too many red flags. I think Arsenal fans aren't, some are, but a lot aren't willing to really look past. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I just don't know where Arteta got this, like, what seems to be some invisible shield that seems to protect him from all criticism at times. It just feels like, if you criticize Arteta and you want better, you're labeled as negative, or you're labeled as part of the problem, and you're labeled
Yeah.
as divisive and all of this. But I just don't know where it came. Like I've said Arteta's done some good things. I've said I wanted the manager to come in and be ruthless because that's what we needed. And at times he showed his, a ruthless side with Ozil, with Oba, in other situations too. The problem is, it's all good and well when, the team bounce back from these, big decisions you're making and they show they're with you. But again, when it comes to this point of the season and, names like, why did Maitland-Niles go out on loan in January, or why didn't you adequately replace Matteo Guendouzi? Because it's all, you can't tell me Lukonga's not ready, and then in January tell me we didn't sign anyone because there wasn't the right one there. Which one
Yeah.
is it? Are we signing right ones, or are we signing not ready ones? Because you can't have both. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I thought that was a great point you made in your fan cam, actually. You know, it's such a good point. It
Why
was,
are people so protective about the? Why are, like, Arsenal and getting back to what we should be the priority for anyone. And no man they put in front of us, yeah, and by they I mean the Cronkies, should divide us. Because Wenger was the man. Wenger is the legend. And they dragged him through the mud. In turn, it broke our relationship, or a lot of our relationships, down with him, and it ended the way it did. After that, Emery shouldn't divide us. Arteta shouldn't divide us. But for some reason, fans want to argue with each other more than and some fans want to close their eyes to it all and just hope and support that that's going to change things. And some fans want to double down and maybe not see any positives in order to, I don't know, be right all the time.
it's a great question. What is it about Arteta? Why Arteta is he so divisive? Like Emery, right? And I'll be, I was on Twitter. I wasn't at AFTV, but I seem to remember most people were slightly underwhelmed, but pretty happy with the Emery appointment. They thought, okay, he's got a good pedigree. I can understand why we're bringing him in. And then the results went bad, and everyone unanimously agreed it was time to move on. But for some reason, fans have never unanimously seen Arteta, and I don't just mean whether he's right or wrong, but even just understood like his strengths and his weaknesses and what he's done well and what he's done badly. There's it's we argue of everything. Saliba, should he have kept him or has he developed him superbly? That's a debate. Did Aubameyang did Aubameyang get worse and decline, or did Arteta ruin him? There's so many kind of debates with Mikel Arteta, and it's a great question you ask. And I think it's because while ultimately I think his tenure at Arsenal has been underwhelming, depending on what expectations you had for him, I think it's because for the FA Cup win and for some of the big wins against big teams that we saw early on and the development of some of the young players and the recruitment, we had that terrible run last season and we had Villarreal and we went out to Nottingham Forest. Like, there's so much in favour and out of favour with him. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. at the end of the day, you can appreciate the FA Cup and say he done well in that, and also criticize him for some of the things that you can rightfully criticize for. You can say he's done well with bringing in Aaron Ramsdale when none of us expected Ramsdale to be an upgrade on what we
Exactly,
had.
yeah.
But at the same time, you can say if you've bought Tavares as a backup left back, I expect you to be playing the backup left back in one of the most important games in the season, running into the top 4 race. You can say these things in conjunction. But fans just seem to think if you're in that, that's why when people ask me, are you in or out? Yeah, I avoid the question because it's like, why is that always the question when it comes down to it at the end of the day? In or out? In or out? The question is, am I happy? I'm not happy. That should answer any question out there. I am not happy. Are you happy as an Arsenal fan? I'm not talking about you, James. I'm asking the rhetorical question out there. Most of us really are not. But if you're one of those that puts something in front and acts like in 2 years, you're going to reap the rewards of what's happening now, then you're part of the problem because nothing is guaranteed in 2 years. Again, I'll use Man United and Ole as an example. There was a time when Ole came in, he had a few wins, he moved them up the league. They went 4th, 3rd, 2nd. It looked like they was improving to the point where this season, when they bought Ronaldo, Varane and Sancho, majority of people thought they're going to be in and around a league challenge. Not league winners, but they'll be in and around top 3, top 4, definitely, without a shadow of a doubt. Look what happened to that. So imagine all the fans of Ole at that time that said in 2-3 years, we'll reap the rewards of this. Because at that time, Ole did strip the deck of a lot of the deadwood as well, even though he gave contracts to some deadwood. It's, there's examples there that hoping and closing your eyes and acting like the now's not happening because the then's going to be great. There's no guarantee. And I'm tired of allowing the Cronkies time and time and time to keep on making these decisions because all the time they've dragged us to this point where we are now, where we're saying we need Europa League to attract players. We need Europa League to attract players. Arsenal Football Club. Tottenham have finished above us 6 times in a row.
There's a comment from, and that is quite staggering, I've got to say. Mohammed with a comment says, Arteta is shielded by his youth projects. Playing on fans' sympathy for youth players is definitely working for him. Listen, some people will see it like that. I am. How long have you worked with me, Turkish? A year. I try to be glass half full. I want to believe that the reason he's embarked on this youth project is because he believes we've got young talent that should be at the core of what we do. That with the right players around them can not only propel us to where we want to be, but then actually sustain it for a prolonged period of time. Because I already know if Arsenal fans go and we become what we want to be, and then in the 5 years after we return to where we are, that's not going to be good enough either. So I want to believe that there's something being worked on in the background that's sustainable, that has a long-term. Look at Man City, right? When those owners came in, it was all about building towards Pep. They knew for ages he was coming. And they brought in Mancini to play a certain style of football. Then they brought in Pellegrini to play a certain style of football. And they signed players. De Bruyne came in before Guardiola, but they knew this is a Guardiola player.
That Barcelona DOF came in, didn't he?
That was exactly who came in. Forgot his name. Yeah. Was it 2 of them as well? Maybe. I can't remember.
Maybe, yeah.
So they had a plan. So City were obviously had the money and then, signed great players and hired very good managers and were able to win titles and trophies along the way to get into the Pep era. But, I want to believe that there's like a longer term sustainable process at play and a youth project might be a way to get there. The problem is that there's a certain level Arsenal cannot go below. And I think too often we have finishing 8th twice. And the first one's not really on Arteta, but he did see out the second half of the season and he didn't really do a lot to make him much better. He won the FA Cup, which was fantastic. But there is a certain level that Arsenal can't go below. So the question is, what is that level this season? A lot of people will say, if he doesn't get 4th, gone. A lot of people will say, if he doesn't get 4th, that's immensely disappointing. But I've seen enough progress and I want to see him with even more of his players and see if we kick on again. There's no guarantee that the next guy comes in necessarily takes us forward. We could go back again. So what do Arsenal do? Do they stick to their guns here? Do we just see out the rest of the season, see where it goes, see where we're left? Is it almost about how, like, the manner of the rest of this season now? Do you know what I mean? Is it now about how we perform and how we show ourselves? And actually, if you don't make top four, but there's something to cling on to, maybe you go again in the summer. I am asking this, Tush. I don't know. If you ask me this question, I'd say I have no idea. I don't
At the
know.
end of last season, I said if you want to move like a big club, then you sack Arteta because he hasn't achieved a goal against Villarreal, and then you bring in Conte after he left Inter Milan. This
Yeah,
season, even though a similar end to the season has come, I'm kind of with you. If you ask me what manager we bring in, there there isn't that manager out there at the moment that I know for sure. If you give that guy time, money, patience, he will build a beast. You know,
yeah,
for me, Conte was one of those. Simeone's another one of those. But I know a lot of people will say, yeah, I don't want that style of football, whatever. I want to
right.
win. Yeah. Simeone is that manager that if he ever comes to this league, I think he's one to disrupt order at the top. So there is no manager for me there that answers that question if what's next per se. Even if we collapse in these last 6 games and only win one of them, draw 2 of them, and lose all the rest, yeah, it's obvious what needs to happen off the back of that. But if it happens, even if we went under the radar and got Ten Hag from United's nose, Ten Hag is not guaranteed under this ownership and the way we are off the pitch to have success here, to build a beast here. It's not guaranteed. This league is very different to the league he's in at the moment.
Yeah,
So any manager we're going to get in after is going to be a risk, albeit they'll have a lot more experience than Arteta. And that's
yeah,
something, I guess, something that people that don't like Arteta hang on to, the lack of experience. Because what Arsenal Football Club actually have done is not a bad thing in isolation, giving the manager time, support, and allowing him to do his thing, regardless of rocking the ball and causing problems. It's not the wrong thing. In fact, it's the right thing to do. The problem
yeah,
is they've taken a massive risk allowing an inexperienced guy who's never been a manager do that role. And on
yeah,
top of him, another inexperienced guy who's never done that role doing that role. So they've done the right thing in the way they've approached it. But in my opinion, they've done potentially a massive wrong again by giving it to an abundance of people, Vinay, Edu, Arteta, that haven't got the experience for it. So, if
they've
you
picked they've picked the right recipe, but they might have the wrong ingredients. Is that kind of
yeah.
what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what it
Yeah,
is. At the end of the day, I never want to be that club that chops and changes managers. Like if you go back to AFTV interviews that towards the end of Wenger's reign, I was saying I don't want to be that team, but I know the next manager is going to have a tough time because of it. He's going to get sacked. And I said the manager after the next one, who happens to be Arteta, will probably be able to, get the ship sailing again, let's say.
yeah,
But under this ownership, I don't see us ever, all I expect top 4 to do, James, and this is all I want it for. All top 4 is going to do is expose the Kroenkes again. Some
yeah.
people need them to be exposed again. I don't know why. But trust me, we make top 4 next season. It's not happening this season. I don't know if you're going to end with that question, but it's not happening. If we get top 4 next season, the Kroenkes will be exposed because they're not going to build on top of that to challenge or win or close the gap. They're not going to do it. They're going to rest on their laurels again like they did with Wenger. And we're going to be back to square one.
Let's go through some super chats. I really enjoyed that conversation, Turkish, actually, just kind of looking at the wider situation. I'll tell you what, I'm doing this now with a much clearer head than in that full-time show where I think I said to you after, like, when you come on these shows, guys, that I love chatting to the fans and hearing what you guys think, but there's a part of it where you're just sat there like, we just lost to Brighton at home. All due respect to Brighton, I like Brighton and Graham Potter, but I'm like, I can't think clear. How do I in 5 minutes just explain like why that's happened? Like, do you know what I mean? 24 hours on, this is why we're doing the live, to get some thoughts, and sort of just with a calmer, more reflective mind, look at what we're really like. When we say we're disappointed and we want change, we want things to improve, the easiest thing is be better. Okay, well, how? How do you want us to be better? Are you saying you want Arteta gone? Because you've just made a great point. Is there necessarily someone better? Or does it not even matter because there's an ownership issue that will always be at the forefront of these problems? So it's a great discussion to have. Let us know in the comments, guys, what you guys think. We do have some super chats. I'll rattle through them. Shress says, if Arsenal wanted self-sustainable and kids FC, why not Klopp post Dortmund? Look at Salah, Jota, Mane, and Milner. Not huge buys, but improved. Arsenal fans pay most Premier League prices, and club can't afford senior players and top manager. WTF? We all know what that means. Yeah, I mean that's ultimately you love your club and people want to pay to go and watch their club, but it will always be a factor that if you talk about it from a pure economic sense, the lowest entry season ticket, Arsenal's is the most expensive in the Premier League. So there's always a degree of, fans aren't getting what they're paying for. And that's why there's always a look at the owners like, we're doing our bit, where's your bit? And in fairness, they've spent money the last couple of years, but it's not just, we've said this how many times, it's not just about spending money. It's about the management of the club. A couple more super chats. Pushpaga says, we have entered a vicious cycle of trying for players who can take us to the next level, yet not getting a top four, which can be the catalyst to get us those players. A result of that mentality we had 10 years ago when Wenger said top four is a trophy. I think there was one more super chat. Harry Lawrence says, Turkish people don't like the truth. Simple as that. He's very much agreeing with you there. And I think it's just taken a while to load, but there were a few more. Let's have a little look. Ash says, do you think it's all over for top four? I'm still hopeful. Just need to stay within one game of Spurs for the North London derby, and we'll do it. Big summer ahead. So now I wanted to go a little bit more into the actual, to round off the show, the actual detail around what went wrong yesterday for us, what went right for Spurs, but also kind of where we're left. Because I was speaking to my family about it today on the phone, actually, and I probably gave my clearest thoughts. Probably a good thing I didn't do a fan cam yesterday. I would have talked complete shite. But I was gutted yesterday because I felt Arteta really let us down. I know you shouldn't listen to, tactic Twitter accounts and Arsenal fans online and blah, blah, blah. You should do what you think is right. But everyone unanimously agreed, play Tavares, stick with him. Get Xhaka in that midfield. Don't weaken us anymore. Don't leave Lokonga on his own with two other kids around him. And he did all those things. And then at a push, we're hoping, by the way, could you take Lacazette out the lineup because he doesn't deserve it? I heard Lee Judges on his fan cam say he's dropped Tavares because he's not played well a couple times. Okay, fine. When are we going to see Lacazette treated the same way? And then again, it's a very good point. Where did it go wrong for you yesterday, just from an Arteta decision-making perspective?
I don't want to bring the conversation back to it again, but last summer, bro, if he's not happy with Tavares, then why did you buy him in the summer? If Lokonga's not ready for the role, why did you buy him in the summer?
But correct. Can I spin that? Because I agree, but I agree in like a slightly different way. I'm like, you signed them. And I'd almost be like, if you barely played them all season, I'd kind of understand. Like, you clearly signed them for the future and you don't think they're ready. Fine. He has depended on them. Do you remember doing that preview before Liverpool, the Anfield trip? And we were saying Tierney or Tavares, who starts? And you were saying Tierney. I think you said back three, actually, with Tavares wing back. But you said Tierney's got to be in that team. But he stuck with Tavares. So Tavares was in a vein of form that Arteta felt was worth keeping him in the team for Liverpool. And then after his mistake, was worth then keeping him in the side again when we played Newcastle like the week after. Tavares was part of the back four that went and won 2-0 at Leicester, played brilliantly. One of our best performances of the season, or at least that first half was. Lokonga, he has depended on him. But when we're saying Lokonga's not ready, he might not be ready to carry Odegaard and Smith Rowe either side of him. But he's probably ready to start in midfield alongside Granit Xhaka. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I almost think the issues it appears he has with these players don't even make sense to me. Because I think there's talent. I think they're good enough.
I get you. But remember yesterday, I think I mentioned that what he'd done out there in terms of formation and tactic is probably the last thing I would have done. But I also can't guarantee that anything else I would have done would have worked because we don't know. the one thing I would have done that would have been the right thing to do, that wouldn't have been questioned by the majority, is play Tavares. I think the majority agreed to that. So if you're asking me, with the cards he has, who's to blame? I guess you look at Arteta a lot. I think you tweeted that you said Palace is not so much on him, but Brighton definitely is. And yeah, I'm with you on that. I think Palace is, some of that goes on Arteta, but Brighton, most of it goes on Arteta, because I'm sorry, but I can't end last season seeing that against Villarreal. Xhaka. Do you know how long I haven't been happy having Xhaka in central midfield for us? Do you know how long, James?
Yeah.
Years. Only for this new manager to come and play him in the Europa League semi-final at left back, and then play him against Brighton at left back again the next season when Champions League football is there, top four is there.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, as much as, yes, Ben White, Ramsdale, Tomiyasu, they've come in and done well, Tavares, you can't rely upon him now, it seems. Lokonga doesn't seem ready. You're still sticking with a guy that, in reality, we should have moved on from. So there's this, when he bought Cedric in, he said Cedric's our most attacking right back, and then he proceeded to put Cedric third or fourth choice right back until Bellerin went, until Chambers went. All of a sudden, Cedric becomes our second choice right back. Tavares, he comes in, back up left back. Now he's behind Xhaka as well in the big games, let's say.
He does,
I
but
just don't get some of it.
He does some really weird things, and this is all on the topic of his starting 11 yesterday, because me, you and Cecil actually were like probably 3 of 10 Arsenal fans in the world who actually said, no, Cedric is probably one of the best options at right back. He should be playing more. That was last season. People roasted me for it. Are you kidding? Cedric, he's this, he's that. But Arteta doesn't play him after saying what he said about him and signing him, by the way. Plays Bellerin ahead of him, plays Chambers ahead of him, ships them both out and goes, Cedric, you're my guy now. It's extraordinary. He signed Pablo Mari, and me and you said, Pablo Mari, perfectly adequate cover for Gabriel. Can just come in, lacks pace, but reads the game, good left foot. He had a good partnership with David Luiz last season, I thought at times. Played in some big wins. What happens? Has a bad start to the season, you don't see him ever again. Tavares could be the next. And it's really weird. This isn't even me necessarily saying he's wrong. I just find it really bizarre. I don't know anyone who operates in that way. Someone who you have signed or you've publicly backed in one way or another is just suddenly gone out of the picture. I don't know. He started with Maitland-Niles as his right back when he arrived, remember?
Yeah.
And he played really well out of nowhere. We don't see Maitland-Niles again. It's like, oh.
And we've seen in the past that we can't afford to make mistakes in the transfer window because we're not that team that are proactive enough to sort out our mistakes. Even down to Guendouzi. Imagine an 11 million obligation to buy. 11 million. So again, we've done good business last summer, but we've obviously done some very poor business too. Because Guendouzi shouldn't be going for less than 20 million. He's just been called up to the France team and scored for them.
Sampaoli just called him, just said he's well on his way to become the best central midfielder in the world. Now I know he's backing his player, but I think we all knew that there was real talent there. Now I'm not saying Arteta made a mistake with Guendouzi because we don't know the ins and outs of, he was playing him at first, right? So he clearly rated him. This is an off-field thing.
Yeah.
But it goes back to replacement, and it goes back to, well, then what are you getting for these players? And if you have ousted them so much that no club is willing to pay 11 million, more than 11 million, because they're like, yeah, well, you've proven he's trouble, then are you dealing with this publicly in the right way? When it comes to the management of the team and the players, and more specifically tactically, like we've seen yesterday, Arteta, when he's got his team all fully fit, I see how it gels and works, and I get it, and I see his vision. When he loses a few players, or certain things don't go quite right, it really does seem to collapse.
Yeah, and it seems like drastic decisions are made in the heat of the moment.
Yeah,
that puts an end to a relationship.
Yeah,
Happened with Ozil as well. Ozil was very much in the side early on, and I know some of the off the pitch concerns with Ozil played a part. but he was still playing after some of the comments he made that people insinuated played a part in his decline at Arsenal. So Arteta, has shown that sometimes when you're not on the same page as him, you're gone. And I guess that ruthlessness is something I wanted, and it's something that's helped freshen the team up for sure, because the team is fresh and there's a lot of players that we're more connected to there 100%. But at the same time, we are still lacking in not just areas on the pitch, but qualities in character too. Experience, wise heads on shoulders, players that scare an opposition. So we're still missing a few things there that Guendouzi would have provided in these final 6 or 7 games, because Lokonga, he's not ready apparently at 22 years of age.
I feel for Lokonga. I think, again, I was saying in the office yesterday, see, you should give me a good hour after the game before I go live on full time, then my better thoughts come out. But I was saying, if you look at Arteta, he's trying to build a team who every player in their individual role has to be incredibly complete. I need a right back who is good on the ball, can be effective in the final third, but also slots in as a centre back. I need a goalkeeper that can claim in the air, good shot stopper, but has got superb distribution along short, medium, and long-term range. I need a striker who scores 30 goals a season, but basically plays in the number 10 space. I need wingers who hug the touchline, but get in and around goal and contribute as well. I need creative midfielders who can operate from wide spaces, yet be effective centrally and get goals. Like, there is so much demand on pretty much every single role in his system. Okay, cool. Yeah. He's been bringing in players that, look at Odegaard, right? All the talent, but the work rate's there too. Thomas Partey, he's a destroyer, but how elegant and brilliant is he on the ball as well? So he has been bringing in players that have been fitting in what he wants to do. But what's amazing is, I think a team should be a reflection of their manager. And actually, there's one thing Arteta's shown, is that he's really not very adaptable at all. Now, when he first arrived and he won the FA Cup by switching to the back three, and he had Maitland-Niles playing that kind of wing back / central midfield role, I thought, okay, this is clever, and you've adapted and you've won us a trophy from it. And a lot of very good managers haven't been able to do that. So I thought that was looking promising. But actually, in the last year or two, I think he's shown a real inability to adapt. And when he does try to, it really goes out the window. And it just surprises me that for a manager that needs so many different levels and gears from his players, he doesn't have many levels and gears himself. His first level in gear, or his best level in gear, I think we all agree there's a very promising young coach in there. But football isn't about, you got all your players whenever you want, fresh, ready to go, no European football, plenty of training, 1 game a week, go enjoy it. That's not what Arsenal really will be competing with. They're going to be competing with extra fixtures, injuries, and adversity, because that's what big clubs face. And I think he struggles in the face of that adversity.
100%. And again, that argument, on one hand, he's learning, he's inexperienced and he needs these things to become a better manager. But on the other hand, again, I'll bring up Ozil. When Ozil signed that contract,
yeah,
a lot of people used to say to me, it's not Ozil's fault that, he's on that money. And I never said it's Ozil's fault he's on the money. But when you sign for a bigger role at your company or your team or whatever it is, but when you start earning more wages, there's more responsibility on you. Now, is it Arteta's fault that he's here? No, because obviously we've gone for him, and at that time we didn't have enough money for a manager, apparently. I don't know what that nonsense is about, but forget it. Arteta signed the contract. Now, some responsibility comes on him. He's talked so well about the club, and he's talked so well about what Arsenal should be, and bringing us back to those levels, those heights and whatnot. But at the same time, if you're a man that knows where Arsenal should be, then you're a man that knows someone that's never been a manager is not primed to take us to that place from where we was. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there has to be some, a lot of people say, I feel sorry for Arteta too, but at the same time, it's, you're in one of the best positions you can be in.
He's in a very privileged position. He's in
terms of a first job. The Arsenal job is your first job. Yes, it comes with a hell of a lot of pressure, but at the same time, you have a fan base here that just wants and are just on their knees, just praying that better days are to come. So they're going to cling on to any little bit of light that they see. And that's what's been happening, you know?
Yeah.
So at the same time, Arteta has to take it on the chin. He can't act arrogant about it because some of the decisions he's made has cost us. Like some of the decisions he made got us into a position to get top four. Some of them cost us, similar to Emery in that first season. I don't think we'd get top four, but the season we was having under Emery, he put us in a position to get top four, and then we crumbled. 4 or 5 months into the next season or later, he was gone.
Yeah. No, yeah. And that all spiraled very, very quickly. That was in a summer where we did back him. We did give him £72 million Pepe, and although apparently it wasn't the players he wanted, and we won't get into all that. Just to round off, we can't. I know we're dejected. I know we've seen this all before. I know we've got PTSD from the last 15 years, or whatever. But it's so important that for whatever the fans are feeling, the players in the club do not give up on this. It's looking very unlikely. It's really looking like Spurs have one hand on it now, but they cannot give up on it. So even if it is just to get us a 1% or a 2% chance rather than 1% chance, what can Arsenal do between now and the end of the season? I'm going to read some fixtures out to try and somehow pull off a miracle and claw this back and get into the top four. Just to let you know, we've got Southampton away coming up. Then we've got Chelsea away after that. Then we've got United at home, West Ham away after. So we've got 4 massive games, 3 of them away from home. The 4 after that are Leeds at home, Tottenham away, Newcastle away, Everton at home. So the North London derby is big, but the last 4 are nicer than the next 4. What can Arsenal do from a tactical perspective with Arteta and the injuries we've got, from whatever it is? What do you want to see Arsenal try and do now?
We have to win every game if we want any chance of it.
Well, winning every game, would that? Yeah, if we win every single game, we get top 4. That's guaranteed. Like, for everything that's been said, it is in our hands. Only it's a stupid thing to say because the games are so difficult, so it doesn't really feel like it's in our hands.
It's in our own hands, but we've chopped our fingers off.
Yeah.
It's about to slip out, mate.
It's a very good way.
And in those fixtures that you just said, 3 of the next 4 away. By the end of it, how I'm feeling now, we are out of the top 4 race by the end of those 4 fixtures. Completely out of it. Mathematically, I don't give a shit if it's 4 points and there's still 4 games to go or 3. I don't care about maths in this situation. Yeah. You know what it is. In the next 3 away out of 4, we will drop out of it, in my opinion.
So who did I say? We've got Southampton next. Then we've got Chelsea away, then United at home, then West Ham away. For me, I think he's got to win. I think he's got to pick up 10 points from 12. From the next, I think he's got to get 10 from the next 12 points. By the way, I don't think this is going to happen. Everyone's going to go, Mr. Positive, deluded. Listen, I don't think it's going to happen. But we can't just sit here and just go, well, over then. We to a degree have to try and manifest.
Because I'm doing that, people. So if he does that as well, we got no channel here, mate. So
yeah, we'll have no discussion, and we got to try and manifest the mentality that at least we want our players to have. So if he gets 10 points from the next 12. Let's say he draws at the Bridge and he wins at Southampton, he beats United at home and he wins at West Ham. By the way, that's not completely out of the realms of possibility. Knowing that Spurs still have to go to Anfield, with the 4 games that are after that, Everton at home, Leeds at home, Spurs in the North London derby, and Newcastle away, I think if he can pick up 10 from the next 12, I think we're in it. Not in the top 4. I think we're legitimately in that race. But we won't be feeling like we're feeling today, which is they've got it. They've got a hand on it. If we can pull a mini miracle out of this next 4 games, then it's doable, in my opinion.
I think out of the next 4 games, we'll probably get 4 to 7 points. Hence why I think we're going to be out.
Which, by the way, I'd agree. I think the way we're looking, we might beat Southampton because they're a bit of you just don't know what the hell you're going to get from Ralph Hasenhüttl. I think we'll lose at the Bridge. I think we might beat United at home because they're a mess as well. And then West Ham away is really tricky. So yeah, I kind of see at best maybe 5 or 6. But I also don't think it's out of the realms of possibility to do well. Now, for him, in my opinion, to get a good result, get a good set of results out of those next 4, I think he's got to back the players he brought in, Tavares and Lokonga, keep them in the team, and give them almost just tweak it a little bit to get the best out of them. So get Tavares in as your left back, but let him bomb forward. Let him get forward. Let him overlap. Put Xhaka closer to... You know how we've basically been playing with one holding midfielder? Just go back to 2. 2 DMs and let Odegaard, Smith Rowe, Martinelli, Saka float in front and do what they want to do. Hell, even bring in El Neni instead of Lokonga if you just want that almost like boring base. That, do you know, that kind of boring, rigid base so that the youth can go and play their football, enjoy themselves with Tavares bombing forward. I think if he just makes it a little bit more sensible, maybe goes back to 4-2-3-1, solidifies it a bit and plays players in their position, I think we've got a chance. I also think if he gets Martinelli or Smith up front, one up front, one on the left, they can alternate. I think if he does that, then I think we might find ourselves having just a little bit more dynamism up front again. We looked so lethargic and slow against Palace and Brighton. If he tries that, maybe there's a hope we can get something out of the next 4 games.
I think I've given the team credit over the season, yeah, because the team at times after the first 3 losses, after the away defeats, we bounced back. January in 2 domestic cups, getting knocked out, we bounced back.
Yeah.
I fear that this time they're probably bamboozled by some of what Arteta's doing out there. So if they was to bounce back and get 10 out of 12 points, then yes, we would still be in with a shout for top 4. But I just think some of the things he done in that game, some of the things he done against Villarreal last year is okay. You're inexperienced, you can make mistakes, but to make the same mistake twice at such a point in the season is unforgivable for me.
Yeah, it's pretty shocking.
So he can, I guess, settle the ship. But what does the last 6-7 games matter if it ends up with Spurs getting top 4? So
and it's a it's a shit question because it's really scraping the bottom of the jar for any positivity. But if Spurs get top 4, Arsenal get 5th or 6th Europa football, whether we want it or not, is the Arteta project, process, whatever, is it halted? Is it over? Or can it still progress? Can we just hope that top 4 is the best that Spurs will do under Conte till eventually he gets bored and moans about something and leaves, and maybe this Arsenal team can develop? I said it was bottom of the barrel stuff in terms of scraping for positives. But do you get what I mean? Is it the be all and end all if this season it doesn't go the way we want?
unforgivable. You know what that means, James.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
Which bit's unforgivable? The missing out on Conte and the missing out on the opportunity to be proactive, or Arteta bottling it from the position that we were in? Which bit's the
both?
Okay.
Because if full ownership, yeah, was the beginning of the new age, like Kroenke wants us to believe, and a lot of fans say, then we shouldn't have had the January window we just had. There was a light there at the end of the tunnel, and they done what they always do. They don't move proactively, hands tied behind our backs, and we hope for the best. So that's unforgivable in itself. Now, Mikel Arteta as a manager making the same mistakes twice in a point in the season where you can get Champions League football, I'm sorry, but it's not good enough. It's unforgivable as well. So, it's much easier to move on from a manager than it is an owner. It's not in our hands.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I'm just tired of going through managers when I know the ownership ain't really about it. They ain't about challenging. They ain't about lifting this club up to be the club we should be. So the reality is, it doesn't matter if we've got Arteta, Vieira, Ten Hag, or Simeone. Under this ownership, I'm 99.9% sure we ain't going to achieve what us fans want us to achieve. Whether you see it for us in 3 years or whether you want it immediately, it's not happening.
Yeah, I understand. Let's end on some super chats, and we'll actually, just before I hit the super chats, thank you everyone who has tuned in. Nearly 3,000 live over the last hour. I think Do you know, I think we needed this conversation, Turkish. This was much more thought provoking, and at least for me, uh, it was more therapeutic than yesterday on full time, trying to make sense of what the hell we'd just seen. So I hope you guys have enjoyed it as well. Obviously, smash a like on the video if you have enjoyed it. We're going to be bringing a lot of live content, and actually, just a little preview, bit of news, whatever. Not really, it's not really, but Tactical Insight was just decided today, starting tomorrow, will be a live show on Mondays. So we'll be getting your thoughts from a tactical perspective as well, doing a little bit longer with Graham. So more lives to come with Tactical Insight tomorrow as well. So we look forward to that. Spurs, they've got Brighton at home next. Then they go to Brentford, who have definitely turned it around. So you can hope for something there. Leicester at home, Liverpool away, Arsenal at home, Burnley at home, Norwich away. I see a cluster of 4 in the middle there. Brentford away, Leicester at home, Liverpool away, and then the North London derby, where maybe they might slip up. But the biggest problem is that Kane and Son, and Kulusevski as well, they are just firing, aren't they? Like,
And look at
make
the
it look
manager.
easy.
What did he say? Something about smelling blood and going for it.
Yeah,
I mean, when you have an elite manager like that,
yeah,
you don't have to hope. You know that he's doing his most and his best to get the club back. You
yeah.
know he has the experience to do it. All we can hope is that he's under an ownership that would have held him back, the similar to ours would have held him back.
He's obviously turning it around and raising the floor of some of these players at Spurs, and it's horrible to say, but he is doing a good job. A lot of managers have come in. Mourinho did it. Poch, although Poch had a more complete side, like they focused, like Kane and Son, they're the golden nuggets. They're the crown jewels. Get them firing, and actually, not saying it papers over cracks, but then you're not worrying so much about the defense because they're scoring 4s and 5s and whatever. And I think Arsenal's biggest problem is not just what Conte's doing, but the fact that those two have just got themselves firing. Now, that might be down to Conte, don't get me wrong, but I looked at, I know XG isn't everything, but Villa had a lot of things to be positive about in that game yesterday in terms of performance, and Spurs just went, yeah, thanks very much, bang, 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 and that is where it might be won or lost in that individual quality. But Arsenal need to find some of that spirit that they've shown all season and stick in it. And maybe if they do something in the next 4 games, they will still be in with a shout. Duoplex says, you do not let an elite striker leave without replacing him. We are not Man City that can cope. 4th place is gone for me. And with that, so is Arteta. The sport analyst says, start of the season, fans said top 6 is a great season. Now we've lost 2 games on the bounce. It's Arteta out. We sack him. Who do we bring in? Yeah, we explored all that.
Drop the Arsenal fans out that would say top 6 is a great season.
Yeah.
Drop them out. If you're one of them, then yeah, I think I'm done. I think I'm done with certain fans. I'm done. I'm done trying to win certain people over. To say top 6 is a great season, all right, cool. You just stay over there. I'll stay over here. I'll be upset that we're not in top 4, challenging and competing for titles, and you be happy that we're doing great things, making top 6.
Yeah,
we'll agree to disagree.
Hey, everyone can enjoy Arsenal and football in the way they want. But
just stop moaning at me when I'm giving my opinion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I remember. Do you remember when we were asked to give a rating of Mikel Arteta's time, and I gave it a 5? I said because it could easily be an 8, it could easily be a 2, and people were like, "How 5? How could you dare give him a 5?" I was like, "You're pretty bloody."
Yeah.
Anyway, look, this is why. Because I still can't even say now that it's a 2 or a 3 because it's not done anyway.
I got dragged. That tweet that I tweeted last year, and I hold my
Yeah.
hand up about that tweet. And maybe it was wrongly worded, and maybe I was premature. But guess what? 50% of that tweet is what's let us down at the end of this season. But midway through the season, I got dragged for it.
Yeah.
Absolutely dragged. If you see the quote tweets from that tweet, yeah. But I'm not that sort of guy to now go back and individually go through these people and ask them how they're feeling about it now.
No,
Because it doesn't give me
Who's
no
got
joy
time?
that it doesn't
Yeah.
give me joy seeing it happen. Even though I
Yeah.
can see it happening, it doesn't give me joy seeing it.
Yeah.
So, like, I think we need to just be easy. Dan said we got a bit too excited. He's probably right with it. We did get a bit too excited. Can you blame us? No. But can we learn? Yes.
Listen, I'm gonna be disappointed and dejected today either way. So I'm glad I enjoyed it when it was good, because it just doesn't matter it doesn't change how I'm feeling today. So I'm glad I enjoyed the good times. You know what I mean?
It makes this all
Bloody hell.
shit. Don't get me wrong. People think that,
Yeah,
there's an insinuation we want us to lose and it helps us. Listen, I didn't want to do the fan cam yesterday and say the same shit over and over again.
fucking
I don't really
depressing.
want to be here talking about top four when I know in my heart we're not getting it. I don't like it. So I'd still want to be competing. I still want to be in the thick of things. I still want to have maybe an FA Cup there to compete for, even if top four's out of our hands. We have nothing again.
Yeah,
We have nothing. I don't want to be here talking about Arsenal Football Club for the next 6, 7 weeks until the season ends. Why? Because all the conversations are going to be about, are Tottenham too far ahead now? Can we catch Tottenham? Is top six a good season? Is Europa League a step in the right direction? That's
yeah.
all the videos people are going to be seeing in the next few weeks. I don't want to be talking about that.
Well, strap in. That's the
Indeed.
reality. Let's see how the weeks pan out. Final super chats. Movie Clip Vault says, think Arteta should roll with Ben White at right back, Gabriel and holding centre back, Cedric left back, and El Neni with Xhaka. Listen, then we're messing around with so many positions. I see what you're saying, but I just think learn from that Xhaka thing. We can't be trying to fix other positions by hampering others, in my opinion. We'll chat about that on Tactical Insight tomorrow. I think there are a couple more super chats just before we round off. No, I guess not. Let me have a little look. Was there one here? Yeah, JDTV says in a 25-man squad with the Premier League, our only competition, Arsenal, should have formed two teams with strong starting 11s and adequate backup 11 plus 3 versatile reserves. Andrew CL, I've nearly read it as Champions League. Andrew CL says, what if Tottenham win the Champions League? Thanks, KSC. I don't think fans have woken up. Do you know what I was thinking about the other day? Do you remember that? Do you remember when they got to the final and they played Liverpool?
That
And
was
I
one
was
of the worst.
thinking, how did I genuinely go about my day to day for those weeks between them beating Ajax in the final? Like, I actually don't know how I went about my day to day life. Genuinely, I must have been in some sort of denial because
Yeah, we was in denial. We was in that state of mind that Liverpool have to get it done. But the reality is, in a one-off game, anything can happen.
we
They
had the
didn't do
Europa
it this
League.
time. We shouldn't be giving them a chance to ever do anything that Arsenal Football Club haven't done before. Tottenham are Tottenham. I grew up without, a care in the world for them. They was just down. All they was a team down the road.
Yeah,
But the reality is, over the last 5, 6, and the years before that, where they did catch up, they've been moving in a more ambitious manner than Arsenal Football Club. And that's off the pitch issues that still haven't been sorted, because this season has showed us yet again Tottenham have shown more ambition. Whether you get the long-term merchants in here that say what we're doing will have long-term gains, cool. If you're right, we'll find out in a few years. We'll find out in long term. But you can't deny that Tottenham are doing things for short-term gains that could potentially be beneficial long term, because you and I don't know how the short term affects the long term. So,
yeah,
all I can go by is what I'm seeing, what I've seen.
sure.
And I'm seeing the same shit over and over again. Yes, with a few new players and what seems like a new culture in and around the dressing room, but there's no new culture in and around the football club yet. And that's
Yeah,
what matters. Otherwise, that dressing room culture will go down the drain with it.
agreed. Oz says last summer on AFTV Transfer Daily, when Turkish hosted, he warned us of this scenario. How many fans moaned and accused him of being too negative? The chickens are coming home to roost. Hashtag Cronky out. Sorry, very near the final super chat. I think we got it here. Apologies. Sharpies asked, will Turkish shave off his beard if Arsenal finish top four? Would you do that for top four, Turkish, eh? Bloody hell.
What's top four, man? Come on, man. You guys think I'm going to be happy with top four? Top four
My
is just a
word.
step in the right direction.
Maybe the Champions League. Maybe if we win the Champions League. Anyway. Turkish, thanks for joining me, man.
No worries, man. No worries.
I think we covered the general feelings and what's maybe to come in the coming weeks. Guys, if you like this video, smash a like. As always, it really helps support the channel. We want to keep bringing you more content, better content, and believe it or not, all these little things help. You know, the comment section, the likes, subscribe to the channel, all these things. So yeah, if you enjoyed it, all the support is really, really appreciated. Turkish, I'll see you tomorrow. Yeah, well, sure, we've got more sorts of content coming out, tactical insight and that.
Yeah.
And yeah, guys, everyone, the 3,000 live, and everyone else who's been watching, a big, big thank you. It was therapeutic. It was, you know, I don't know, cleared my head a little bit. Anyway, we'll round it off there, guys. A big thanks, and see you tomorrow.